So I fixed the polyurethane bushes into the lower link arms. It says they're supposed to be quite a loose fit, but I suppose they rotate on this metal ring rather than on their surfaces as it's suggested in the manual. So I don't know how much they're going to clamp up either, because obviously the washers are only going to push up against the edges of these metal rings, so hopefully they'll be alright. The next job is to bolt on the pan that supports the spring onto the lower arms. Bolts are different sizes. These are slightly longer at the back, don't know why. They're all 5/16 fittings. I'm going to fit one side, slide it onto the swivel arm, and then bolt on the other link arm onto the pan once it's on that lower swivel bearing. That makes more sense now. So the bolts at the back are 1 inch long. There's a slightly, well, where these two bits of metal cover the hole, so it's thicker at the back. It's thinner at the front, so we only need a 7/8 of an inch bolt at the front. Does point out in the manual that the bolts go from the inside out and the nuts are on the outside of the arms. So I'm just going to bolt them up loosely, as again it's suggested in the workshop manual, and they all get tightened up when it's back on its wheels. I thought I'd just daub a little bit of grease on the end of the spindles, and then hopefully that just slides on the end. Take it that's what it does. So the other link arm goes on the other side. I'll just put a little bit of that polyurethane grease on there because it's butting up against metal, and then I will assemble the nuts and bolts on this arm as well. So there's the other lever arm on. I'll just do the same to the other side, and then I'll put the nuts on each end of the lever arms. Okay, I've gone for new washers, pretty big actually. AAA 1330. I'm going to put a little bit of that polyurethane grease because again the bush is up against metal, and then I've gone for some new castellated nuts, MD 608041s. I wonder, looking at the hole for the split pin, whether again these are going to be too big. I might have to go with the old ones. I'll just put a bit of anti-seize on that first. I've just always found these new ones a little bit bigger than the old ones, and I don't know with that steel tube in between the bush whether that's going to squash down enough for me to get a split pin in there, but I'll just leave that on there temporarily, but I might have to go back to using the old one, I think. I'll just do the other 4. I think that's partly what I was expecting. I've actually wound that up pretty tight, and we're nowhere near the split pin hole, and I'm not going to tighten it any more than that. I'm going to dig out the old washer and the old castellated nut and probably put that back on, I think, rather than those new ones, unless I can find something a bit thinner. I'll leave it there at the minute, come back to it. I've found some smaller castellated nuts. They're definitely not as deep as the ones I've bought, so I don't have to put them on as tight, and I've lined them up just enough for the hole where the split pin goes. What is interesting though is again the part numbers ND608 608-041. ND608041. So either there's a problem with the parts, but they're definitely thicker. On the opposite side there's a different problem. So this was the cleaner swivel arm, it wasn't as rusty, but actually looking at this in more detail, there isn't even a hole for the split pin. So I don't know whether to put a lock nut on there or whether to put a castellated nut and try and find a way of drilling a little hole through there. I'm going to try and ask someone about that.